Before we get into this special weekend edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com.
Last September, South Carolina's new hands-free driving law went into effect. For 180 days, drivers were given warnings, not tickets, as law enforcement focused on education. That grace period is about to end, and citations will be issued. This law exists because distracted driving isn't just about a bad habit. It costs lives, and one of the people who fought tirelessly to get this legislation passed is with us today. Kelly Willenberg turned personal tragedy into determined advocacy, pushing lawmakers to act so other families wouldn't have to experience the same loss that she did, losing her husband. We always enjoy having Kelly with us on the show. We're also joined by Cindy Hips, the mother of Clemson student Tucker Hips, after Tucker's tragic death. Cindy and Gary Hips launched the Tucker Hips Memorial Foundation, working to raise awareness about hazing and strengthen accountability on college campuses. Two mothers, two missions, one goal, protecting lives. Let's get started. The Tucker Hips Memorial Foundation was created after the tragic death of Clemson student Tucker Hips, and since then, his family has worked tirelessly to raise awareness about hazing, pushing for stronger accountability, and protecting young people on college campuses across the country. Joining me now, Cindy Hips, Tucker's mother and the driving force behind the Tucker Hips Memorial Foundation. Cindy, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me, Joey. It's always great to talk to you.
For listeners, Cindy, who may not know Tucker's story, take us back for a moment and tell us about your son and what led to the creation of the Tucker Hips Memorial Foundation.
So back in 2014, Tucker was a sophomore at Clemson University. He had just started school, and he wanted to pledge a fraternity. And after much discussion and after attending orientation and finding out all we could find out about the organizations, we said, okay, you can do it. And seemed like things were going along pretty good, but then all of a sudden we get a phone call one afternoon on September 22nd saying that he was missing. And so, long story short, he was found floating in Lake Hartwell around 3:30 p.m., but he had gone on a run with his fraternity brothers at 5:30 that morning, and his friends, some of the other people, were looking for him as early as 6:50 that morning because he didn't show up for breakfast. And then by lunchtime, his girlfriend was looking for him. Everybody was looking for him. And someone made a 911 call about 1:45 to state that they were looking for their buddy. They didn't want to report him missing, but they were looking for him. And so after long years of depositions and legal cases, what we believe happened was that they were on that run, and sometime during that run, something nefarious happened that made him come in contact with that bridge. We do have a few witnesses that heard boys yelling and saw a boy on the railing of the bridge, and his injuries that he sustained do confirm that he fell from up high because he had bilateral lung contusions and head injury, and he fell into the lake, and he did drown. That was never really talked about, but he did drown. That was his cause of death. He was what they call dry drowning because once you're deceased, you won't take on water in your lungs. So
Wow.
Or it's the opposite. It's the opposite. He did not have water in his lungs because he was still alive when he went off that bridge.
Yeah.
So we still really don't know what happened. You know, nobody's ever really come forward to say what exactly happened to him. And, you know, we believe that because he was the Pledge Christ president, he was forced up on that railing, and because he didn't bring the biscuits that were supposed to be brought, there was things they had to do for the brothers. I found out so much about fraternity and fraternity hazing, and there's still lots of things in the news about it. So, you know, only one can speculate why the truth hasn't come out.
Sure. And let's talk about that, Cindy. Hazing has been a persistent problem on college campuses for decades. From your perspective, what are people still misunderstanding about hazing and its dangers?
Well, as witnessed on the recent article with all the comments, people just do not understand what hazing is and why it's done, and why there's no reason for it to be done. There's lots of new research out there that talks about hazing, and it doesn't create brotherhood. It doesn't make groups be more apt to work together better. It's just not a good way to get people to buy into something. It's just really a good way to bully people, and it starts out in a very benign way. So, just like some of the recent groups have been in trouble for servitude. They're made to go buy meals for the brothers, or they're made to drive the brothers because, they've been drinking, and so they have to be on call to pick them up. Well, now that is against the rules in most of the universities in South Carolina, and they call that hazing because it is the first step in someone that's above you forcing you to do things to become a member of their organization. So it's kind of like sexual misconduct in a workplace. Your boss, because he's over you, forces you to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
It's the same sort of thing. They're forcing these young men to do things they don't want to do. And it starts out real simple, but it escalates, and it goes on for 8 weeks. So by the end of the 8 weeks, they're doing things that they would never do, and lots of times it gets filmed. They hold that over these folks. I mean, I've read so many horror stories. It's just it's horrific, and it's not benign because it starts a process that they don't see themselves getting out of.
Yeah. Cindy Hips is our guest today, mother of Tucker Hips, a young Clemson student who lost his life on an early morning campus run. Now, you have worked, Cindy, closely with lawmakers, universities to try to strengthen anti-hazing policies. Do you feel like you've made progress, and where do we still need to work on?
So there's some things that I'm very proud of, and then there's some things that I feel like I haven't been able to get to happen. The one thing I'm proud of is the reporting in South Carolina, because that was the first of its kind back in 2016, where universities had to put in a public display their infractions, student conduct violations. And so now there is a national policy that has been attached to the Clery Act. It's called the Stop Campus Hazing Act. And essentially that's what they did, is they took the Tucker Hips Transparency Act and made it into a national act where these folks have to report twice a year in a conspicuous manner. It adds hazing to the violations already reported through the Clery Center, but it also has some accountability pieces to it and some education pieces. So universities must have formal education on hazing, and they have to put that report out in a public manner, and they have to follow up on these incidents. And if they don't report it, the Clery Act does have some teeth to it, so there are violations and fines if people are caught not doing the reporting. So not only are they reporting domestic violence, rape, now they're reporting hazing. And so that's a lot. That's taken years to get that done. But one of the things that I still feel is missing in South Carolina is the accountability piece, because there's a lot of different things that go on that causes harm, not just physical harm. Of course, death is the worst.
Yeah.
But there's kids that have been emotionally harmed and suffered other physical and psychological trauma that they carry the rest of their life. And I feel like if people knew that they would go to jail for these incidences, then I think that would deter the behavior. So I'm all about making hazing a felony if someone dies or is dismembered or like poor little Danny Santulli, which has South Carolina ties. He's blind, can't speak, can't walk.
Wow.
From a fraternity hazing. And so there should be punishment there. And I think if kids actually knew they were going to go to jail, and in South Carolina right now it's just a misdemeanor and $500.
Yeah.
I think it would deter that behavior.
Yeah. Cindy, if you're talking to other parents and maybe parents who are listening to us today, what are some of the warning signs that parents and students should look for when it comes to hazing?
Well, you start seeing a lot of the little signs that people don't think anything's wrong with it. But if you see a group of boys all wearing the same attire and it's 100 degrees outside and they have on a tie and a sport coat, then they're joining a group. That is one of the first things that you start seeing. But the student themselves, if they are really being subjected to some violent hazing, they will start withdrawing. They'll withdraw from their friends, their older friends. They won't come home as much as they did, or they'll just be really withdrawn. They'll seem sad. I mean, I have parents that I know that their children committed suicide because of some hazing that went on at school, and they came home during the break.
Yeah.
And it was obvious to them that something wasn't right.
Yeah.
But you just have to know your student, be in contact with them constantly, and let them know that that's not something they have to subject themselves to. I do want to say that at Clemson, I go twice a year and work with the IFC guys, which I feel like the leaders, they really do want the culture to be different, but there's just so many moving parts. But you know, I go and I don't really get into all the details of Tucker's story, but I tell them about things that will follow them forever. If they knew that their name was going to be in social media for the rest of their life, being involved in the death of one of their friends, they couldn't even go get a job without someone knowing, oh, you were part of the Tucker Hips tragedy, or, you know, your parents lost their income, their homeowner's insurance because they had to pay out to a lawsuit, a civil suit, because the national organizations don't pay for their attorney's fees. They don't pay for the settlement. It is the parents' insurance. Yeah. And so, you know, there's a lot of things that we didn't know. If I knew what I knew now, you know, I would definitely I would try to persuade them not to do it at all. Yeah. But if they wanted to, there are groups on campus that really don't haze. But just because they say they don't haze doesn't mean that. I feel like if you have pledging, you have hazing.
Yeah, yeah. Our guest today is Cindy Hips. Cindy, the Tucker Hips Memorial Foundation doesn't just raise awareness. It also provides education, resources. Talk with us about some of the positive programs and some of the good work that you guys are doing.
So our organization, our mission is helping people help others, and so Tucker was real passionate about Boys State, and so we give money every year. Every event that we host, some of the proceeds go to Boys State, and that helps defer costs for some more guys to go without having to pay. There's also some scholarships out there in Tucker's name for folks to go to four-year universities, but most all of our scholarships are tied to Boys State in some way. And then we give to other organizations that support underprivileged people or people that are homeless. You know, we're very passionate about Miracle Hill and the Dream Center. And, you know, now that we have this fishing tournament, there's several kids groups that they take vulnerable kids and adults fishing, because if you can learn how to fish, that's something you don't need a group to go fishing, and fishing is just such a relaxing sport, and you can pretty much go anywhere to fish. It's not real expensive. And so these groups teach they'll get a rod and a reel, they'll teach them how to fish, and, you know, they also try to meet some of their basic needs when it comes to just counseling with them, or, you know, the Outdoor Dream Foundation, they actually take medically fragile kids hunting and fishing. Yeah. And this that organization has grown. It's not just in our area any longer. It started in Anderson, but they take these kids all over the country on some big hunting expeditions. But it's just amazing what all it takes for that, and to see their face light up when they, are able to get that turkey or that. I mean, I've seen all kinds of things that they've come back with, and they mount them and make trophies, and they get presented with it. It's really amazing.
Yeah. If you'd like additional information about some of the great work that the Tucker Hips Memorial Foundation is doing, just visit tuckergives.org, tuckergives.org. Now, of course, Cindy, it takes money to do some of these programs. You have a upcoming fishing tournament as a fundraiser. Talk with us about that, where it is, when it is, and how people can be involved.
So as you said, you can go to our website to get all the information, but on March 6th and 7th, we do have a fishing tournament. This is our 5th annual bass fishing tournament, but on Friday night, anyone can come. That is at one of the local hotels in Anderson. We have a meal. We have a speaker. Chris Wells is going to come speak to us, and he is the chaplain for the Bassmaster Elite, and he also has his own organization called Spoken Well Ministries, but he goes and speaks to different groups, and I hear through other people that he's a really good speaker. We'll have auctions, we'll have live auctions, and we'll have auctions by ticket. We have tons of stuff. It's amazing what we come up with, and we're always looking for more items. So if anyone wants to donate an item, just let me know, and I'll come pick it up. But anyone can come to that. Just for $25, they can come to the event. It's really a family-oriented event. This year we're going to have a little bit of music and the speaker, and then a great meal.
Yep. Again, that website is tuckergives.org. And look, I've heard Chris Wells speak. You're in for a treat. And so if you want to come spend the evening, that would be wonderful, tuckergives.org. And, of course, if you like to fish, nothing better than to spend the day out on the lake for a good cause as well. Cindy, we always appreciate having you. Thank you for what you continue to do, you and the entire foundation. And, hey, I'll look forward to seeing you in Anderson next month.
I'm looking forward to having you, Joey, and I really appreciate all that you do to help us and help us keep Tucker's memory alive and keep the word out about the things that we are trying to that we're working on.
Sure thing. Yeah. Joey Hudson here. You tried keto, paleo, Weight Watchers, intermittent fasting. You lose weight, then it comes right back. You blame yourself, your willpower, your discipline. But here's the truth. It was never about willpower. There's one thing that determines whether your body burns fat or stores it, and if you don't fix that first, every diet will fail. At PhD Weight Loss, they identify that one thing, and they build a plan that works with your body, not against it. And if you call now, you're going to get 2 weeks free in the program, and they'll pay for your food so you can finally see real answers without more trial and error. If you've done the yo-yo dieting and want clarity, call PhD Weight Loss now and mention Joey Hudson. No more guessing, just answers. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900. Say Joey Hudson. That's 864-644-1900. Also find them online at myphdweightloss.com. That's myphdweightloss.com. Do it once and for all. Lose the weight the right way by calling PhD Weight Loss today. Last September, South Carolina's new hands-free driving law went into effect. The initial 180-day period, there were no citations issued, just warnings, educating drivers on the new law. But that is going to be changing here soon, and law enforcement will be handing out citations that come with consequences. Joining me today is a lady who has fought hard for the passage of this law for a number of years, and I'm happy to have Kelly Willenberg back with us. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me again. It's good to be here.
As we have talked about in the past, Kelly, this is personal to you. Some people can think about the idea of how dangerous it is to drive while texting or holding a phone to talk. We can even acknowledge the fact that distracted driving is a contributing factor in thousands of traffic collisions each year. But until you have a loved one who is affected by a careless driver causing an accident while texting, it really doesn't become real. And that's your story, Kelly. You lost your husband because of someone driving and texting. Before we get into the new law and what it means, talk with our listeners about why this has been so important to you.
8 years ago, my husband was riding a bicycle home from the hospital, as he did every day. And he was in a bike lane on a 5-lane road in Spartanburg County with 2 lanes and a turning lane. And a driver looked down to pick up his phone to check a text and hit my husband from behind. And he was pronounced dead about 24 hours later. And he loved his bike. He rode on a bike all the time. He had a racing bike, a mountain bike, and a road bike, and biking was his mental health time.
Yeah.
And you would think he was safe, but he wasn't, because someone was not paying attention to the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just it changed your family's life forever. But I love, Kelly, I love your story because you have worked tirelessly since then to try to protect other families from having to deal with the grief that you have. Talk with us about that process and how you have worked with state lawmakers to get this new law passed.
Well, about 6 months after Dale passed away, I was contacted by Representative Bill Taylor, and we talked a few times, and I got involved with Palmetto Cycling and, national organizations across the country on safe driving. And the more I learned, the more passionate I became that South Carolina was behind in our treatment of distracted driving. And I personally felt a passion that I didn't want to see other people go through what my family went through. My husband was a healthy nurse anesthetist who ran and biked and was very active. And, he didn't have any chances when the bike hit him from behind. He had, almost every bone in his body was broken. So it became something that I wanted to help others. I was determined to pay it forward, to make sure South Carolinians didn't go through what I went through in 2017, nor my family. And I think that we are there. We are almost to the point of a starting line where things will be different. It's just now it's real. It's in front of us, and I know it's going to change the way people drive, and it's going to save lives.
Yeah. Kelly Willenberg is my guest today. For years, we had a texting while driving ban that was on the books. In a recent column you wrote that was published in the South Carolina Daily Gazette, you called it toothless. From what you've seen, why didn't that law work, and what makes this new hands-free law fundamentally different?
I believe the texting law that was in place before just really didn't have any consequences, and it was hard to enforce. And what I think now we need to realize is that the new law actually is very, very focused on keeping your hands on the wheel and your eyes on the road. It's a cultural thing across the country. We all of us, you and I included, live with our phones in our hands. We rely on our phones. You and I both rely on the phone for business. But I think that people need to realize when they're in a car, they are 6 times more likely to have an accident due to distracted driving than they are from driving drunk.
Wow. Yeah.
And I think that's the law before just didn't have the backing that people needed to realize that it was important to really put the phone down and not gamble, because all of us have picked up the phone in the car, all of us.
Yeah.
But it's not just a phone. And I think that's where people have to realize it is, the law is not really anti-phone. It's anti-reckless. You've got to be careful, and you've got to have your eyes focused on what is going on in a vehicle.
Yeah. And that could be anything. That could be going through a drive-through and grabbing a burger and having your lunch on the way to your next appointment or something. Anything that is distracting what you're doing. And as you said in your article, we have to focus on that driving. And I like what you said, too, there, that it's a cultural thing. We've gotten used to treating our cars as our mobile offices, as you mentioned. How do we shift that mindset so people understand that driving does demand full attention? Now, this law, of course, I think will go a long way because it's going to have some teeth now. People are going to have to start writing checks for the fines. But what are other ways that we can do to sort of change the culture?
I believe we have to educate our children, number one. They do as they see. And, many children have been in cars growing up watching their parents do as much as you just said in a car. They're putting on makeup, they're eating, they're doing other things besides, working to make sure that they are safe on the road. I think the culture now is going to have to change to, with artificial intelligence, with some of the tools that are out now. That's the other thing with the texting law. Over the years, the cars and the devices that we've had and that now we have available are different than they were, 5-10 years ago. So now you can drive without putting your hands on the phone and have a device propped up. And many cars have capability for you to use Apple Play or another tool and not have to pick up the phone,
Right.
Be able to look at something without it taking your eyes down. Is exactly what took my husband's life. I mean, the person that hit him admitted he looked down at the dash to pick up his phone to answer a text.
Yeah.
So, I think that's what's different is we've got systems built in now and we've got ways to change our culture and change the way we drive and teach our kids and future drivers, teenagers, that's not okay. It's just not.
Yeah. Kelly Willenberg is my guest today, and we're talking about the hands-free driving law that went into effect last September. We've been in a 180-day trial period, I guess you could say, with no citations being issued, but that's about to change. And Kelly, I guess the key to this new law, too, is officers no longer have to prove someone was specifically texting. If you are holding your device, you're violating the law, right?
Exactly. Yes. You cannot have it in your hand, on your shoulder, in your lap. If they see it, they can stop you. And I think that's going to be, it's going to have to be enforced. And they can pull you over now just for holding the device or manipulating the device. That you can't make an excuse like you could in the past. And the penalties, the first offense is $100. And after that, the penalties will climb. And $200 and then points off your license, and those things start that can be meaningful to people, especially in light of your insurance and coverage.
Yeah. So once citations begin, what does success look like here? I mean, what do you expect to see? And have we seen a result since the law took effect and people are getting warnings? Have we seen any early numbers as far as maybe a decrease in accidents?
I looked yesterday and I haven't seen any numbers, any data put out yet about the education that I believe has gone on over the past 6 months. I think people are going to be surprised if they are stopped now. For scrolling or browsing or, doing something they shouldn't be doing. But I wonder where we're going to be in a few months because we live, between a couple states that have very strict distracted driving laws, and they both have seen a significant reduction in accidents. So, a year from now, we may be talking, totally different on what has happened, the education that has occurred, and how people have become more accountable for the way they act behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier Representative Bill Taylor. You work closely with Representative Taylor and others. Years ago, when you started this journey and talking with legislators, I'm assuming that was probably a new experience for you. Talk with us about that. Was it because sometimes things like this, it's just very clear. You think they should pass this today. This should not be a debate. But it took a few years to get that accomplished. Was it harder than you ever thought it would be?
Absolutely. I thought that once people heard my story and others, talk about losing someone, they would understand. And it was a fight, and there was a concern about taking away people's freedom and people's rights, and was it enforceable? But watching the states tick off around us in the country, it became apparent that we were in line to do it, and we needed to get moving. And it's interesting to me that it took as long as it did, and I do respect our process, but the process that is going to start this month should save people's lives.
Yeah.
I mean, my family's the worst case scenario, and there's many others that have been in the same situation as us.
Yeah.
But I'm excited and happy to see the education campaigns, the signs on the side of the road. I mean, there's a lot that's gone on in the last 6 months, and if people haven't seen those, I'd be surprised, because it's a moment in time that we've been waiting on.
Yeah. One final thing, Kelly, and again, we appreciate what you've done, because I think you have made everybody safer across our state. And you frame this not as just good policy, but moral clarity, prioritizing human life over the convenience. If you could speak directly to South Carolina drivers who are listening right now, what would you want them to understand before they get in the car and pick up that phone behind the wheel?
I believe that you can take your eyes off the wheel under certain conditions. And I mean, you have to drive. You have to manipulate your car and turn the turn signal on. But I think that if you really think about it, you are responsible for that vehicle at all times. And it's a moving, large beast that can hurt people without a moment. A moment can just go by and things happen. I saw a wreck Sunday on the way home from Alabama, and it was a moment in time of someone cutting over in front of an 18-wheeler truck, and there's 6 cars in front of me.
Yeah.
And it happened within 3 seconds. I want people to realize that there's a false sense of security when you think you've got a control of a car. You're dealing with the car, the people in the car with you, and other drivers. And if we're all safer and we're all conscientious, driving will be safer in this state, and there will be lives saved without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, again, Kelly, we all appreciate what you did. Appreciate you just really fighting the good fight to make everybody safer on South Carolina roads. And we appreciate your time. And we'll continue to educate people, because I think that's what we do now, is we continue to remind people of this new law and see if we can shift that culture to where people don't even think about having their phone necessarily. You get in the car to go from point A to point B. Wait till you get to point B before you think about taking calls.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. You are so right.
Yeah. Kelly, thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
That's it for this special weekend edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at MyPillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.